Hey, hello everyone, how are you doing? And thank you for being here, I truly appreciate it. Hey, I'm going to do another video right now. I haven't done one, in about a week or so I figure I'll try to get a couple done today if I can for you, and I hope you'll enjoy them. The first one I'm going to do is for a viewer of mine by the name of Sam St. John. Hello, Sam. Hope you're out there. Sam had a good suggestion for me, and by the way, if any of you ever have any suggestions for me as far as you want me to talk about something or throw my opinion out there about something or review something, please throw it my way in the comments. I'll always do my best to try to make a video for you, if I deem that it's worthy of doing. I mean, obviously, and with time constraints, obviously with life and stuff, there's only so much time to get these things done. So, hey, if you come up with a great idea, I'll give it a whirl. And I like Sam's idea here because I've never done something like this. He asked me to show some of my favorite music books. Books that I've enjoyed over the years, and maybe some couple of Beatle books I threw in, but I didn't want to do all Beatles. So I did throw a few of my favorite Beatle books in here, but it's kind of a cornucopia of music, artists, and styles and types of books, okay? So I'm going to throw them your way. Check them out. If you see something you like, I'll do my best to give you all the information, and you can check it out online and see if you can find a copy of some of these. All right, so this was very hard to do, let me say that. I have a ton of music books. Obviously, I have the majority of my collection of music books are the Beatles. I have tons of Beatle books, so it's hard to pick favorites. I could pick a million favorites of Beatle books. We could have a stack this high. So I just honed it down to a few that had, some sentimental value to me, and figured I'd show you those. And then I just picked some books that either I read them recently and really enjoyed them, and so I recommend them to you, or just books from years past that I've really enjoyed and I go back to every once in a while because I like them so much. So here you go. All right, the first book I'm going to show you is a set. All right, and the two books, if you look at them together, you know who that is. You get a nice image of Elvis Presley on the side. These are fabulous books, folks. If you want to learn about Elvis, if you want to know what made him tick, who made him who he was, you've got to read these books by Peter, and I want to pronounce this right, I probably won't, Peter Guralnick. All right, help me with that, Peter Guralnick, all right. Part 1 is called The Rise of Elvis Presley, Last Train to Memphis. And Part 2 is called The Unmaking of Elvis Presley, Careless Love. Folks, if you don't get any other book about Elvis, or you've never read any other book about Elvis, this is just my, Matt Street's recommendation. Get these two books by Peter. Get them. This, to me, is the definitive biography about Elvis and his life. This is just my opinion, okay? I really think after I read these books, I understood who Elvis was, where he came from, what he was all about, what made him who he was, and then ultimately what happened to him tragically at the end. You'll truly understand this man when you read these two books, okay? I'm telling you, get them. So these are two of my favorites. I believe one of my sons gave me these, so I appreciate that. Now another one, if you want to get a little bit of the background from that period, is this book by Sam Phillips, not by Sam Phillips, about Sam Phillips. It's called The Man Who Invented Rock and Roll, and how one man discovered Howlin' Wolf, Ike Turner, Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, all about the Sun Records beginning, and look who wrote it. Peter Guralnick, however you pronounce that. He wrote this as well, folks. A nice thick book, a nice companion piece to go with the books about Elvis. My oldest son gave me this book, and I truly appreciate it. I couldn't put it down when I started reading it, just as I couldn't put down the two Elvis Presley books. Get this, folks. One of my highest recommendations. Okay. Power pop fans, rock and roll fans, this is one of my favorite power pop books of all time. About 10 years ago, John Borak, who authored this book, put out a volume called Shake Some Action. He decided to revise it and upgrade it. Basically, it's the 200, in his opinion, the 200 greatest power pop albums of all time from 1970 to 2017. Folks, this is a fun read. He goes through all 200 albums. He shows you an image of each album. Now there you can see the Ruddles album right there is number 121. But he goes through it all. I'm not going to show you who's the top 10 or anything. You're going to have to read it and figure it out. But there's so many great, wonderful artists in here. He does a nice feature on each of the 200 albums, and you can really, it really sparks your interest, like to want to go out and listen to a lot of the ones that you haven't heard yet or been aware of yet. You go, wow, I got to check that out. So great book, folks. One of my favorites. Just came out within the last year or so. I love it. Shake Some Action 2.0, John Borak. This is a fabulous book related to the Beatles. It's called When They Were Boys by Larry Kane. Folks, highly recommend this one. I met Larry at a fest several years ago and he signed this for me. Very friendly and personable man. And I couldn't put this book down. I didn't know what it was going to be all about when I first got it. I said, maybe it'll be all right. But I got to say, he's a great writer and he really held my interest throughout this whole thick book. I truly enjoyed reading his take on the true story of the Beatles' rise to the top. Great book. Fans of power pop and rock and roll. A lot of these books, folks, they may like feature like one particular artist wrote it or it's about, but just if you're a fan of music and rock and roll in general, they're just fun reads, fun books to really delve into and go through. And this is one I wouldn't have thought of picking up. I don't even think I was aware of it, but my younger son gave me this one. It's called There Was a Light by Rich Topeka. The Cosmic History of Chris Bell and the Rise of Big Star. Folks, this is a wonderful book. Wonderful. Even if you're not a big fan of Big Star, well, I don't know why you wouldn't be. They're fabulous, but you've got to check out this book. It's great. Great, great book. Fabulous. Uses a lot of quotes from people directly linked to the story of Big Star and Chris Bell, and just a wonderful, wonderful read. I couldn't put this one down. Okay, kind of a fun one. It's more of a sentimental one for me, favorite. It's called the Beatles Musical Pop Up book. Back in the 70s, I got this. I'm not going to go through all the tabs and pulling, but it's only a few pages, but it has wonderful pop-ups reflecting the Beatles' career. And there's another one here, Sgt. Pepper one. Okay, and last but not least, here you get on the rooftop. And I think the rooftop one was the musical part. When you got to this page and opened it to this rooftop scene, it played a Beatles song. I think it was Hey Jude, but it's so old now. This is over 40 years old that I think the battery, whatever type of battery they had in there, is long gone, so it doesn't play anymore. But you might be able to find one of these on eBay. Good book. Nice book to have. I love the raspberries. I think I have a button on here somewhere, my raspberries button, and here you go. Raspberries. Overnight Sensation, The Story of the Raspberries by Ken Sharp. Folks, great book. If you want to get every piece of history and scoop about the raspberries, you've got to get this. Great. It might be hard to find. It was out of print for a while and going for big bucks on eBay and sites like that, but I think it's back in print again. Wonderful book. This one my younger son recommended to me, and I like this artist now. I even have a couple of his CDs. Butch Walker. This is a fairly recent book called Drinking with Strangers, Music Lessons from a Teenage Bullet Belt. Butch Walker with Matt Deal. Great stories, just a fun read. This is one of those books, again, reading about the rock and roll lifestyle and going from, nothing to making it in the business. Just a great book, and I highly recommend it. Drinking with Strangers by Butch Walker. This one's an old one. I got this in 1985 or 86 or something while they were still together. It's called The Kinks Chronicles by John Mendelsohn. He's a big Kinks fan, big music journalist back in the day, and he wrote a fabulous little book about the Kinks. It's called The Unauthorized and Uncensored History of the Second Longest Lived Group in Rock. Great book. Fabulous book. Love this one by Elvis, about Elvis. Elvis Vegas 69. can't beat it. It's a beautiful, mostly pictorial book, again written by Mr. Ken Sharp. Folks, I can't even go through the whole thing with you because once I get hooked on it, I just can't stop. There's so many great pictures in here from that famous event back in '69 when Elvis finally came back to the stage after many years, and this book chronicles it beautifully. Fans of Cheap Trick, power pop, rock and roll, you'll love this one. Reputation is a Fragile Thing, the story of Cheap Trick. Again, Mike Haynes with, again, Ken Sharp. Ken Sharp, I find, is in a lot of the books that I really like. He really has put out some awesome books, but there's so many other great authors as well. But if you're a fan of Cheap Trick, again, this came out several years ago, so it doesn't go up till the current status with Cheap Trick. As you know, they're still out there doing it, rocking and everything. But if you want to read about a great a historical perspective of Cheap Trick, where they came from, how they came to be what they became, get this book. This is a recent book for me. I got this one not too long ago and I couldn't put it down. It was a great read. The reason I picked it up, I probably normally wouldn't have picked it up, but I got it for only $6.99. So I was in a store and I saw it and I said, oh, I'm going to read that. I have a few Pretenders albums. I like the Pretenders. I saw them live in concert several years ago, and they were fabulous. I love Chrissie Hynde. I kind of had a crush on her when she first came out with the Pretenders. So I decided to read her autobiography. It's called Reckless, My Life as a Pretender. And I recommend it, folks. It's a great read. I really enjoyed reading the history of Chrissie and how the band was formed and about her life. It's great. Here's a band that hasn't been around since the mid-90s, but I love them, Jellyfish. If you've ever heard Jellyfish, you know what I'm talking about. They've only put out 2 albums, 2 major label releases, and they are critically acclaimed. And this book is called Brighter Day, A Jellyfish Story by Craig Dorfman. If you can find this book, get it, folks. Another great read, even if you're not too familiar with Jellyfish. I think you'd really enjoy reading this. Great, great book. Okay. Here's another one Ken Sharp is involved with, but I love this book about John Lennon. It's called Starting Over, The Making of John Lennon and Yoko Ono's Double Fantasy. I truly love this book. I really, really do. He interviews all the people involved with that period when John came out of retirement in 1980 and started recording again, and interviews that you really get a good handle on what was going on, all these little quotes and interviews about that whole period of Double Fantasy, the Milk and Honey period, and it's a beautiful book. It really takes you to that time period of what was happening in John's life at the time, and reading from all the people that were close to him and involved with him during that those final recording sessions. It's just priceless, folks. You've got to check out this book. Okay. There's so many Buddy Holly books out there. I mean, I have a ton of them, but I just grabbed 2 to show you that I recommend. One's by the famous, you all know him from writing Shout, about the Beatles, Philip Norman. Wrote a book about Buddy called Rave On, the biography of Buddy Holly. It's a great, great book, folks. Okay, Rave On by Philip Norman. Great book. And then one more Buddy I grabbed is called The Day the Music Died, The Last Tour of Buddy, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens by Larry Lemmer. Highly recommended. Great book if you want to read about Buddy and that final tour. There's so many great books about Buddy Holly out there. Okay, a few more left, folks, and I'll be out of here, I promise. I can't show you all these. There's supposed to be 5 in the series. I'm getting another plug for Ken Sharp. He's doing a Power Pop series, or he's been doing one for a few years now, called Play On Power Pop Heroes, where he interviews all the different Power Pop people starting way back in the early days with The Who and the Beatles, and he's working his way all the way up till current times. I've got 4, oh, it's heavy, 4 volumes right now. Look at these things. 4 right now, volume 1. This is volume 4. Sorry, they're out of order. The Bangles on the cover. Volume 2 has Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick on the cover. And volume 3 has The Knack on the cover. And I'm waiting for volume 5. I hope he comes out with it soon because I love those books. Okay, I'm getting there, folks. I'm getting there. One of my favorite Beatle books of all time. I've shown in many videos. Here's my hardcover of The Beatles Forever by the great Nicholas Schaffner. May you rest in peace. Need I say more? One of the greatest Beatle books ever. One of my recent favorite Elvis books is called Elvis at Madison Square Garden. Similar to the Elvis 69 one. It chronicles that whole period of Elvis playing in '72 at Madison Square Garden, New York City. And it is a beautiful book. And I got this, I think it was Ed from the Kinks Chronicles who was showing this or talking about it, I believe. And I liked what I saw so much that I ordered one and I love it. One of my favorite Elvis books. One I got recently, I love the Ramones, but I picked up a book by Richie Ramone. I was going to say CJ. Richie Ramone with Peter Aaron wrote a book, I Know Better Now, My Life Before, During, and After the Ramones. Great book. Oh, just I couldn't put this one down. Richie's such a great writer. The way he comes across in this book about his time with the Ramones is fabulous. Check it out. Two more. Here's a recent book I'm reading. Just started this one. Go All the Way. It's basically called A Literary Appreciation of Power Pop. Has Badfinger on the cover by Paul Myers and S.W. Loudon. Just started reading this one. And last but not least, one of my favorite Beatle books of all time. And I can't wait till part 2. I think there's supposed to be 3 parts in this thing. The great Mark Lewison. Look at the thickness of this thing. The Beatles, All These Years, Volume 1, Tune In, by Mark Lewison. Folks, this book, need I say more if you're a Beatles fan? You've got to have this book. You've got to read it. It's fabulous. Mark is just such a great historian and a writer. And I heard part 2 will be out one of these days. Who knows when Mark's going to finish it up. But we're all waiting in high anticipation for it. The next volume of this series. Okay, folks. That's it, 17 minutes, I'm out of here. Those are some of my favorite music books currently, in the rotation, Sam. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope the rest of you enjoyed it. Have a great day, and I'll be back for another video very soon. God bless. Bye-bye.